The Get On Living Safely campaign is sponsoring this podcast to remind you to keep your spending in the community. Supporting local businesses keeps food on the table for our friends and neighbors. Follow them on social media and learn more at getonlivingsafely.com. Ryan Francis describes his style as Great Lakes region Americana folk music. He shares his song Firewalker and lays out his musical influences. We discuss creativity, COVID, and its similarities to being a veteran. You can find more conversations on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Lacrosse Local.
My name's Ryan Francis. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Only lived there with my parents for about 3 weeks, and then we went out to Los Angeles, California, and I lived in Philadelphia. Northern Michigan's where I graduated from high school. All throughout, I just had this interest in music. I was just drawn to it. This is kind of embarrassing, but like when I was just like 2 or 3 years old, I was standing up on picnic tables naked, singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I mean, I've just always been into music, and then once I started to, I guess, understand the objective from the subjective and start getting into lyrics, even at a young age, I remember just wanting to write extemporaneously, just like when I was 8 years old. I just loved to write. So, and the music itself it's just beautiful. It's great.
I've seen your music described as Great Lakes region Americana folk music. So you referenced growing up in Michigan. How would you say that the Great Lakes region spin on Americana and folk is different from other parts of the country?
Up in Upper Michigan, there are poverty levels that are higher than Detroit. It's very have and have nots. You either have money or you're in absolute poverty. It's not uncommon to see people living in condemned homes. The drugs, I mean, there's a drug epidemic everywhere, but I try to write about very real things. When I start getting into my narrative writing, I feel as though what's been going on in folk music in Wisconsin kind of mirrors that, because I know in rural Wisconsin, there's a lot of issues. I'm even here in La Crosse and in larger cities in Madison. So I think there's a lot of similarities, but I like to champion, where I came from and where I grew most of my inspiration, I should say.
You shared with me recently your song, Firewalker. I was listening to, and I could hear some Jeff Tweedy in it, some early Wilco. I even kind of heard a little bit of Beck from his, Sea Change album, and some tinges of indie artist John Grant. Who is some of your influences that you've found to kind of follow and kind of reflect on?
Thanks for listening, Brent. Some of my biggest influences, as far as a catalog is concerned, Steve Earle, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, more contemporary, Justin Townes Earle, God rest his soul, he just passed recently. Ryan Bingham, love some John Moreland, Jason Isbell, a lot of Americana influence there. But also, I have a strong, you might not have heard it in this song, but I definitely love a lot of punk rock. Yeah, it's what I love.
Just you've referencing some of those kind of alt country sort of singers, you could definitely see that influence to it. Just kind of I wouldn't say sad, but there's some, some components of yearning and traveling and, the things that make country music and folk music great.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of traveling in my life.
So you also have a new album coming out. Is this your first album?
It's my first album that is going to be really put together in its entirety. I feel like I have mini EPs recorded at all these different locations, probably since I was like 16 years old. And I don't have any up on iTunes or anything, but my intent is to make this album available everywhere. It's called Middling Sorts, and there's going to be just a lot of narrative songs about where we're at as far as in our country right now. And, there's going to be some love songs on there too. So looking forward to it.
So what is the process when writing and creating new music?
Yeah, and so with that, the Notes app on my iPhone has been my best friend. In high school, I used a lot of the, notebooks, just wrote more organically like that. But now it's like having this phone in my pocket. No matter where I am, I can just write down an idea, come up with some lines, some lyrics. Sometimes, it's not uncommon for me to sit down like Firewalker. I wrote at my kitchen table in 5 minutes. And then I know this week I finished a song that I've been working on for 6 years. So it's just having a way to log lyrics and then eventually just coming up with some music, humming the melody to it, rolling with it.
Well, speaking of that, you're talking about creativity. Sometimes it's taking a little longer, sometimes it's shorter. How has COVID been for you in relation to creativity? I know some artists have found it to be actually very hyper creative in this time, written a lot of songs, and other ones are just kind of coming out of the shadows just now, but having a lot of interesting ideas that are starting to flow after the whole panic of this experience. How has it been for you?
It's been an eye-opening experience. I am a combat veteran. I served in the U.S. Army, deployed to Afghanistan, and I know I've talked to several veterans about this whole pandemic experience and a lot of the existential anxiety associated with it. To me, it feels a lot like a deployment. It's like every single person in the country is like experiencing a little bit of that existential anxiety of going outside. There's different levels of fear that people have. But as far as how that's affected my creativity, I feel like I've been able to spend a lot of time reflecting just the past, different situations, how that relates to my future, seeing people struggling in society as well. I mean, I have played a lot of shows, actually, majority of them outside during COVID. I know that there's an attitude of people saying that it's a selfish thing to do. And, I respect people's opinions. My lead player that plays with me often, he's been homeless and the only income he gets is playing with me. So I feel an element of responsibility for that. And so I just continuing to write songs and seeing the struggles with businesses, people on the street, people suffering, people dying. It's helped with my creativity in that sense. But there's definitely been some levels of depression that were uncommon in my life than there was before the pandemic.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of on that ride right now, ups and downs, highs and lows. What's next for you? What are you really excited about next couple months?
I'm excited to be playing more shows with this Wisconsin music collective I'm a part of. We're called the Rainy Day Music Collective. Got about 36 members now. I am a founding member. I'm going to the Whitewater Music Hall. We're going to have a socially distanced concert there. That's up in Wausau, Wisconsin. Very, very pumped. Some real good regional acts have played up there. Feed the Dogs played up there. I love those guys. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting this album out. I'm really looking forward to the community. La Crosse, living here, it's the first time I've ever really felt at home in my life. And I've met so many musicians in this area, so many great people, very welcoming, very talented people in this area. I just want to get out and listen more. I was out at Red Pines the other day at an outdoor show. I saw Andy Hughes and Stacey Hansen. It was amazing. I want to be able to do that every day in this town. And that's the way it was before the pandemic. So many talented people everywhere. And I just love it. It's beautiful. So that's what's next for me.
If people want to follow along, maybe check out that new album, where can people find out more about you?
My Facebook, it's at Ryan Francis Music. Something that I started at the beginning of the year. I just realized, I was gigging a lot more, and then I should probably, put my music page out there. I'm going to be expanding my SoundCloud here a little bit more. But yeah, Ryan Francis Music on Facebook. Best way to follow me right now. Once the album comes out, I'm going to have it available everywhere. CD Baby, iTunes, SoundCloud. So looking forward to getting it out.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you would like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Locals. Subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We thank you for it.